Passionate, driven, enthusiastic, euphoric. This is who we are as entrepreneurs. But how we leverage these incredible attributes to dream and build businesses that scale and grow is what this podcast is all about. Hello, I'm attorneypreneur Josh Brown, and welcome to Franchise Euphoria.
Hello everyone, it's Dee here. Hope you're all enjoying some amazing spring weather wherever you are. I know it seems like it was a very long time coming, and I'm definitely enjoying the weather here now. So I've been thinking a lot lately about hot topics in franchising. Everything from startup mistakes to legal news. Things like Josh's testimony before the Oregon State Legislature that he shared a few weeks ago concerning the groundbreaking franchisee Bill of Rights that they're considering there. I want to share with you today another hot topic. This previously aired episode covers a very costly mistake to the tune of $40,000 that you can easily avoid. So check it out and hope you enjoy.
Welcome back to another episode of Franchise Euphoria. Today we're going to talk about a $40,000 franchise lesson that a client of mine recently learned. I'm not obviously going to go into names or anything, but I'm going to go through this lesson because I think it's instructive for franchise buyers out there, people considering a franchise. I think you'll find it quite valuable. Before we dive into that, I do want to read a couple of recent reviews that I got for my podcast, which were quite exciting and inspiring. One such review came from, this is from Larry Post, who says, Josh's podcast was instrumental in how I selected my franchise. He is exactly right. You will know when you find the right one, assuming you don't take due diligence shortcuts. It took me many months to find the right one. Thanks for doing this podcast, Josh. Well, thank you, Larry, for listening in and doing the right thing and approaching it the right way. Another review comes from Craig at winningyouthcoach.com, who says, law expert helps entrepreneurs, 5 stars. Started listening to a few podcasts, really good info. Just listened to the John Lee Dumas interview, and it ignited my passions. Well, rock on there, Craig. That is what John Lee Dumas does. He is a passionate kind of guy. So thanks for tuning in. I really appreciate the review, and I appreciate everybody who just takes the time to listen and heads on over to iTunes and leaves a comment and review. So let's get right down to it. Like I said at the outset, today we're going to talk about a $40,000 franchise lessons and the importance of due diligence. Well, you just heard it from one of those reviews that you cannot shortchange due diligence when you're looking for a franchise. I feel like sometimes I'm on the repeat mode here because I talk about that a lot, but I just keep seeing people do that. I keep seeing people it's not that they're intentionally taking shortcuts, but they're just not going through a systemized process to review a franchise system. And I think it's really, really important to do so. So recently, an individual reached out to me after purchasing a fairly well-known franchise. And for illustration purposes, I'll refer to the individual as Sally. That's obviously not the person's name, but for purposes of the story and this podcast, we'll refer to the person as Sally. And Sally had purchased a franchise about 85 days before contacting me. And when I met with her, she had one question: how do I get out? I said, how do you get out? You just got in. And she said, but I made a terrible mistake. And through a series of questions and answers, I soon learned that Sally actually did a fair amount of checking before she bought the franchise. She researched the franchise. She had a good understanding of the business model. She had the right experience necessary to become a good franchise operator. And Sally is an accountant and knows numbers. She's also had years of experience with a corporation. And so all of these things are great attributes and experiences to have before transitioning to a franchise owner. And so she went through a lot of the process that I often speak about that would-be buyers need to go through and need to think about before they decide on a franchise. But as I pressed deeper, I soon realized that Sally made one very big mistake or overlooked something that was significant, and that was she did not speak to enough current or former franchisee owners within that particular system. This was the $40,000 lesson. Gone. Money not to be retrieved. And so don't make this mistake. Learn from Sally and understand once and for all that there are no shortcuts to finding the right franchise. I mean, you must be dogged when you search. You must turn over every stone, question everything you don't understand. Speak to others who are currently part of the franchise system you are interested in and former owners as well. You must ask them the tough questions and push for truthful and complete answers. So here are 12 questions that at a bare minimum, I think you should ask franchisees before you buy a system. And these are asking current franchisees. Number one is, why did you select this franchise over others? Number two, what is your background? Number three, does the franchisor provide quality training and support as promised? Number four, how many hours a week do you work? Number five, are you profitable? And if so, how long did it take for you to become profitable? Number six, how much of a capital reserve did you start with? Number seven, what unforeseen problems have you encountered? Number eight, has the franchisor been responsive to your concerns and receptive to your suggestions on how to better the brand and the system? Number nine, if you had the opportunity to do it all over again, would you buy this franchise? Number 10, what do you spend most of your day doing? Number 11, what are your average month-over-month sales? And number 12, what are your average month-over-month expenses and overhead? The answers to these questions should provide you with a good amount of information. This is a good beginning. It's not the end, but it's a good beginning. But also be thinking of follow-up questions that you can ask. If a question pops in your head while speaking to other franchisees, you must ask it. I mean, the worst that can happen is that they don't answer. Big whoop. I'm so adamant about doing all of this because, like I said earlier, it just breaks my heart to hear from people who regret the franchise that they bought. Not only is it a bad position to be in, but you're not going to get your money back. I mean, you may get a little back off of a franchise fee, depending on the franchise. But the reality is, once you sign that agreement and pay that franchise fee, it's gone. So be the exception and do all your due diligence. This won't guarantee success, but it will help your chances of success. Buying a franchise is mostly like buying any other business, and you should approach it as such. But one of the big differences is that with a franchise, you're signing an agreement that will lock you in for 5, 10, 15, and possibly even 20 years. The average franchise agreement is 10 years long. There's not one main thing that you need to do to make a smart franchise purchase. There are many, but you can't shortcut the process. It's just too big of a gamble. Going back to Sally, when I asked Sally why she didn't speak to current and prior or previous franchisees before she signed the franchise agreement, she told me that she reached out via email to a couple of the franchisees but did not get an immediate response. And so instead, she relied on what the franchisor told her about the system. When she finally spoke to the franchisees she had previously reached out to, she had already signed the franchise agreement. It was then she learned of some big problems with the system. Sorry, too late. Don't be too late. Learn from Sally's story and do the work. And don't rush. I mean, any worthwhile franchise system will welcome your questions, your due diligence, and the time you take to make the purchase. If they don't, that is a red flag and you should move on to another system. I mean, I cannot reiterate that point enough. It seems a lot of people, when they look at a business, and this happens with non-franchise businesses as well, but it's human nature to get excited about a deal. I mean, we all get kind of excited about new opportunities and change and what's coming down the pipe, and looking forward to the future and the possibilities that they bring. But you've got to check yourself, or you've got to have somebody in your life that can check you so you don't make these kinds of mistakes. I mean, it's one thing to make a mistake when you own a business that you know you should be a part of, but don't make the mistake the buying of the business. I mean, that is a big mistake in which you have potentially a chance to lose a lot of money. So I don't want this to be a downer episode. I mean, I think what you can take from this episode is just the importance of following all the steps. I mean, as you learned from Sally, she tried to do a good job of thoroughly dissecting the system and investigating the opportunity, but just got a little impatient. And it's just that much. That's all it takes. And you can find yourself in a bad opportunity. So hopefully this helps people out there and provide you with some good information. Until the next time, happy franchising.
Thanks for being with us today on the Franchise Euphoria podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please be sure to go to iTunes and provide a review. Also, please remember that although Josh Brown is a licensed and practicing attorney, nothing contained in this podcast should be construed as legal advice, because it is not. The information contained in this podcast is general and educational in nature, and none of it should be relied upon as legal advice. That being said, if you have questions for Josh and would like to contact him, please email him at josh@franchiseeuphoria.com. Thank you so much for listening, and we hope you tune in to our next weekly episode.